It's funny how memory works, the human memory, I mean. I was watching YouTube user Jeff N727's YouTube video tonight about his stereo equipment, and when he said that he had a Pioneer turntable in his stereo equipment arsenal, which was pretty nice equipment to look at, I remembered something. I've got a Pioneer stereo turntable. This is something that my dad picked up off the curb, and it's been sitting down here forgotten in the basement since probably 2004, just after the basement flood. It didn't get wet. It was here after the flood came. But he picked this up off the curb, and the only apparent problem that it's got is the little rubber spring-mounted feet on the bottom of it have completely rotted off, so it just sits on its base. But this is a Pioneer direct drive automatic return turntable, model PL518. And it seems to be intact and complete. It's dusty, needs badly to be cleaned up. But in light of discovering this, and in light of having my memory jogged by that video I watched tonight, I think the time has come to see if this turntable works, and if not, if it can be revived, and at the very least, cleaned up. Now, I had entertained thoughts a couple years ago of selling this turntable on eBay, but then I did a web search tonight to read up about it, and I think I can safely say, as long as it works, I'm so very glad I didn't, because people speak very highly of this turntable. So I think the time has definitely come to try it out and turn it on and see what happens. But first I'm going to clean it up. Alright, so I found a table in another room of the basement, and it's a pretty cheap and nasty table, but we have ye old broken Linksys Ethernet card to shim it up and make it level, because the auto leveling feet don't work. I'm going to plug this thing in behind the refrigerator over there. Let's just see what happens. Turn the queuing up here so I don't scrape the needle on the record. Hey, it spins right up. Got a Stanton Magnetics, oops. What's going on there? Try that again. Got a Stanton Magnetics cartridge and stylus on it, and I checked those using the strongest magnifying glass I've got in the house because I couldn't find my little microscope anywhere. And it seems that the stylus is in good shape. Now, let's see. Check the little stroboscope over here. Looks like the lines for 33 RPM at presumably 60 cycles per second. It looks like those lines are stationary, so it seems like it ought to be running at pretty well the right speed. I think I need an amplifier and a record. This is pretty impressive. Of course, it'll be a crappy record in case the anti-skating or the downforce or something is messed up. But this is looking pretty promising, really. Well, I've got all the hookups made to the little Technics SA210 receiver, so now I just have to find some speakers. I'm not going to bother with those crappy sound design monstrosities back there. If I was going to blow up a pair of speakers, it'd probably be them, because they don't really have a whole lot going for them, and the cabinets are falling apart. Okay, I've gone ahead and hooked up my speakers, and I've made sure they're both phased properly. That is to say, the positive and negative are connected to the appropriate terminals on both receiver and speakers. Got these JCPenney speakers. They're three-way, although probably only loosely in the definition of such things. But I'll bet they're better than those nasty sound design speakers back there. And I have a crappy record here on the turntable. So I'll turn off the lock here. I don't know how good these speakers are. I've never tried them. But they do measure, they don't measure shorted, so they should be safe for the amplifier. And let's just see what happens here when I try to bring this old turntable back to life. Yeah, 33 RPM, crappy record. Receiver set properly. Better turn that down a little so I don't get a surprise. And let's just see what happens here. I hear something in the speakers. Well, that's not bad at all. You know, I find it kind of funny that Monster Cable, which they have no qualms whatsoever about charging a price premium for, I would never buy it ordinarily, but I've gotten some of it with some speakers that I have purchased. And I find it interesting that for what it costs, they don't actually use a different colored conductor in it, nor do they mark it so that you know that your speakers are in phase unless you resort to a multimeter test. That's just kind of a funny side note. I actually used old lamp cord for these speakers, and that generally works fine. But I think I'm going to find a better record and see what it sounds like. Alright, I've gone ahead and given this thing the cleanup that it so desperately needed. It's not perfect. In fact, it could benefit with a lot better cleaning on this metal body, but it's easily an order of magnitude better than it was. The clear dust cover is in good condition, but there's a little boo-boo over here, sort of a crack and a fracture in it. I imagine that might have happened when it was thrown out, because I know that it had a pretty gentle ride home and that it hasn't been abused while it's been here. Anyway, to demonstrate the real potential of this turntable, this has got to be the quietest turntable I have ever listened to. When I was playing that dirty, filthy record on it, and really it's not that filthy, but it's certainly not as clean as it could be, it astounded me as to how few clicks and pops I heard. So here, as a better example, is a much nicer record. This is the London Phase 4 Stereo Spectacular, featuring Stanley Black conducting the London Festival Orchestra and Chorus in Film Spectacular Volume 3. And as you can see, this is music from a whole bunch of films. They're not kidding when they say spectacular. This is a fantastic recording, and it's easily got to be one of the best records that I have in terms of physical condition. It's extremely quiet, it's extremely flat, and it ought to serve as a good example of what this turntable is capable of. So in a bid, not so much to make the movie companies and the music companies mad at me, because the movie ones especially have no sense of humor, this is rather more of an attempt to demonstrate just how high quality of a turntable this really is. As you can see, this record is exceptionally clean. It's probably one of the two cleanest, quietest, best sounding albums that I have, and if you could find a copy that was in good condition, I would highly recommend it. In fact, I wish I could play more of it than I can sample for you, but unfortunately that's not likely to be a possibility, and I don't want to run the chance of getting the video pulled. So here we go. Anyway, unfortunately, that's about all I feel comfortable demonstrating with to keep it within the reasonable bounds of fair use. But as you can see, this is an exceptionally quiet turntable playing an exceptionally well-made and well-maintained record album. So there you have it. I found a treasure in my basement tonight.